Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. This is part 5 for today. It's the last news report, hopefully, for today, Wednesday, January 9th, 2013. I'm Darko. My website's ggnonline.com. If you'd like to put your email in there, you can get updates. Or, basically, you can see all the videos from back 2010. Also on YouTube, DDarko 2012 and 2013. NSA documents on PerfectCitizen program raise many more questions. So this is basically algorithms to see where the most dissent is. So that's basically a summary of it. And then we talked about how DoD, Department of Defense, is exploiting social media, and about these tools are endless and reach from far and tactical to immediate and strategic and global. And this is what we were talking about. It says anyone could sign up for Twitter and follow a dozen or 100 or 1,000 fellow tweeters, but for a comprehensive analysis of all 400 million daily messages, you need to pay. What Twitter calls the full Twitter fire hose is a product that includes everything except private messages and what the company calls protected tweets. It says here, its goal to marketing and brand analysts, the fire hose contains a stew of confessions, taste, and passions, a directory of people and their links to each other and what they are thinking about at any moment. It says, and we sell that to the governments and to commercial entities. She's talking about all these sources, and we sell the feed along with the analytics. In countries where people use Twitter, she said, the company calls rich information. In Libya, we were able to track everything, where the arms were, where the rebels were moving. We had on a map where everything was going. So it says among Intensity's early and crucial investors was InQtel. That's interesting. I think they're the ones that brought Facebook, basically associations with the CIA and that. The Central Intelligence Agency's venture capital firm. So there you go, fund that backs technologies of potential use for intelligence agencies. From the beginning, the CIA was not just an investor, but also a customer. She also said, I think people don't realize when they sign up for these sites, these websites, that the government is going to be routinely monitoring and sifting through this data, she said. This individual, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, said that technically it is indeed all legal, but she emphasized that people don't really understand how their random thoughts, disclosures, or opinions on social media may be exploited. That's for sure. 5,000 people have been investigated by the political law enforcement officer revenue collectors for something they said on Facebook or Twitter as social network crime soars 800%. Did it really soar 800%, or is it just being monitored and actually followed up legally 800%? That's the question. Crimes include posting menacing messages and sexual offenses such as grooming. In 2008, there were just 500 reports of crimes. Last year, there were 4,900. So in 2011, 653 people were charged for crimes involving Facebook and Twitter, when already people lost their jobs, right? Police officers should only respond to complaints that cause genuine harm. So it's a huge increase, they say. The report of crimes involving Facebook and Twitter rose 780% in just 4 years. Kuwait man gets 2 years for tweet insulting the Emir. Country is cracking down on social media. They say he'll spend the next 2 years of his life in prison over a tweet as the Gulf nation continues its crackdown on dissent in social media. So, and the same thing's happening everywhere else, UK, United States and stuff like that, Europe. And it's, this is like this. Facebook post lands Marine vet in mental ward. That's right. U.S. police reportedly detained a Marine Corps veteran in a mental hospital over a Facebook post triggering outrage in an online community. Said they claimed the FBI was concerned about his calling for the arrest of government officials. And also on those lines, I'll just finish with this. Google, Honcho, Prods, North Korea for missile ban and open web. The humanitarian trip with Richardson draws fire. Ooh, they drew fire for going to North Korea, right? North Korea actually has been opening their economy to Germany. They're supposed to go with the Vietnam economy structure or style instead of China. But basically, they're trying to open up their economy. And I guess Kim Jong-un's trying to fulfill that promise to his people, which is you don't have to tighten your belts anymore. So Eric Schmidt, he's had some pretty crazy quotes about privacy. It basically doesn't exist and they get used to it. And, so of course this is all just a bunch of PUI, I guess, State Department is unamused with one rep signing the trip as ill-advised, and John Bolton bashed the pair as having joined the long list of Americans and others used by the Kim family dictatorship for political advantage. Well, it's business, right? The country's been closed off, and he's going there to what? If you're gonna quote open it and democratize it or something like that, and allow this information to flow in, all of a sudden, you want to be able to control the information. So that's what this a-hole is going to go there for, to make sure that they have a completely controlled, filtered system and not open and free. And just another side note, as far as this, Kuwait man getting 2 years to tweet insulting America. This is little old Kuwaiti. Remember, little old Kuwaiti. We got to go help him against Iraq. Back in the day, that's what Bush was saying. And it was, and then they were promised with low oil prices, so they had to go out there and get Iraq, and the guy that they put in charge, Saddam Hussein, and shook hands with him and gave him all these weapons. They had to be able to go and help these people. But it's just funny how these Gulf nations, like in Bahrain, not necessarily a Gulf nation, but it's a dictatorship, and they turned a blind eye towards it. They're all focused on Pakistan or Syria or India, now, and it's like they don't look at Kuwait for this. They don't look at Bahrain, where Saudi Arabia basically helps Khalafi, whatever, the king, and that clamp down on protesters. I mean, they can lose their citizenship. They can be thrown away in jail. I think activists were getting shot. They were thrown in jail for just protesting, but they were also hit with rubber bullets and tear gas. No mention of it, though, in Western media, really. Oh, they will when they want to go in there and exploit them. They'll just call it a humanitarian mission to impose democracy. U.S. government using terrorism against the American people. Violence and threats being used to intimidate and coerce the American public for political purposes, as they documented. This is Washington's blog. America is the largest sponsor of terrorism in the world. But remember, terrorism is defined as the use of violence and threats to intimidate or coerce, especially for political purposes. And it goes through all the list that we were talking about here, labeling protests as terrorists, spying on all Americans, indefinitely detaining Americans without cause and without due process, even threatening to kill any U.S. citizen on a whim. It talks about journalists self-censoring. Initially, there's a tremendous self-censorship by journalists. Also, it says here that Keith Olbermann agreed that there is self-censorship in the American media, that you can rock the boat, but you can never say that the entire ocean is in trouble. You cannot say, by the way, that there's something wrong with our system. Former Fox News reporters say the same thing. Any reporter who does not censor themselves are harassed, whistleblowers are prosecuted, or even tortured or by the government, or killed, right? Found in a sack, in a gym bag. Or, sustained a gunshot to the head, or hung themselves, or gotten carjacking or something like that. Rapid DNA is coming soon to a police department or immigration office near you. Actually, the first autonomous robot or machine immigration post has just actually opened up recently. And the amount of time it takes you to get lunch, the government can now collect your DNA and extract a profile that identifies you and your family members. Rapid DNA analyzer machines with the ability to process DNA in 90 minutes or less. That's pretty good. Usually, I think they had to wait for days. Or an operational reality and are being marketed to the federal government and state and local law enforcement agencies around the world. People are stranded in camps far away from their homes. Little access to documentation, DNA identification could be useful for both the federal government and the asylum seeker. So they go on there and said how there's all these laws to protect you, but how the private companies are still creating the technology and pushing it on the government to incorporate. So, and they've already got the breathalyzers, but I think they actually have little things where they can prick your finger now and do little cotton swabs and DNA tests right there on the spot when they pull you over. I actually learned that I was fortunate enough to where I don't know why it was. I wasn't delivered by a doctor, I was delivered by a nurse, but also that I didn't have my blood taken from me. So I guess that's a good thing. But then again, I was in the military, and they'd like to take a honking load of blood from you all the time just to go see the doctor. That's why I don't go there at all anymore, especially now that I know what I know. You'll walk away and you'll be worse off. But they're always trying to take blood from you just to go in there because you're sick. Oh, you got to give blood. It's like, Jesus, man, lay off. It's just weird when you see banks, Seen a bank around here recently. Ooh, the next blood drive, Red Cross blood drive, of course associated with the Red Cross. the Rosy Christians and stuff like that, and the Rothschilds, or whatever link you want to make to it. It's Illuminati, and it's just something eerie about banks, doing blood drives, like the Freemasons pushing RFID chips. Russia to open state-of-the-art radio electronic surveillance centers. Nearly 20 radio-based electronic surveillance centers will begin operating at the service of Russia's special forces during 2013 as part of the strategic defense rearmament announced by the government. The radar is designed to monitor specific zones for anti-aircraft missiles and reconnaissance. That's interesting, too. I mean, they show the picture of the lightning bolt drums. I actually have them on my website. And I actually theorized with somebody else about this, about these things aren't just putting stuff out. They're actually like super microphones. So when you see these things around in your town, or in every town almost now, they're actually listening to everybody. So when it'd be kind of funny, people talk about microphones and their computers or their cable boxes. If they have these towers everywhere, they're not just transmitting, but they're also receiving information possibly as well. And you have to remember, like Barry Trower said, former British Navy worker or employee, studied microwaves and technology, even saying that you can give people specific diseases or sicknesses by pulsing certain types of frequencies in the form of microwaves and that on them. So, including cancer, of course. But he said that Russia has the same type technology. Cloud surfing, U.S. Surveillance Act, grave threat to EU sovereignty. Just saw an article about the U.S. Telling the U.K. that they shouldn't or can't leave the EU. An intelligence bill has put the frighteners on EU citizens as it allows the U.S. to access their personal data stored in internet clouds like those used in Facebook and Google. The law is a grave risk, blah, 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 right? So it's amendments to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act signed into law by Obama on Monday. Well, it will be. It's funny, though, because I guess it goes tit for tat, because right now U.S. citizens can actually go through some kind of database, I believe, overseas as well in airports and airlines. All kinds of personal data, including credit cards and statements and all that stuff. AFRICOM and ICE conducting biometric identity operations across East Africa. From the editor's note, the original mandate mission for AFRICOM was humanitarian in nature, aiding nations during natural and other crises. AFRICOM is in mission creep mode as they now have special operation units added and are very involved in the Mali intervention plan to go get Al-Qaeda, right? There weren't many African nations willing to offer land to the African Command for their base of operations. What will the future hold for AFRICOM? Says the ridiculous facade of this organization is being torn away. So, yeah, they and its identity resolution team now cooperate with the U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement for conducting operations in East Africa to identify bad actors known as suspected terrorists or militants and special interest aliens, traffickers, criminals, terrorists likely to attempt to travel to the United States. You have criminals caught by the way they walk, talking about your gape or gap, whatever. The latest biometric techniques being pioneered to identify criminals and solve crimes now must go much further than fingerprints, DNA, face, and iris scans. So, how looking at people's ears and the way they walk, lay their feet on the ground could help solve a crime. If we could use computers to emulate human sight, we can apply that to recognize you using various things. So with everything I've said in these 5 videos, I want to throw out there too, just my theory that there's technology that could actually tap into people, human beings themselves, and actually view like a camera would. And so if you're around people, if they want to track you, they just pick up on your unique frequency that you give off, and then they track the people around you, and then they'll say things to you that are kind of odd off the wall, or they'll just be staring at you. Again, you don't have to believe me. It's just a theory. So, Texas judge rules schools can force RFID chips on students. So they announced that they would track students' RFID chips. The students, of course, in that they rejected it and they protested, kicked and screamed. But of course, they said, "We're just going to force you, right? Because you're in a re-education camp. You're on their battlefield, right? They're in their world." Disney World to track visitors with wireless wristbands. The magic bands will be linked to customers' credit card information and acts as a key pass. It's like wireless toll collection and public transit turnstiles. Smart utility meters are causing sleep trouble, headaches, and heart problems. They're harmful to your health. All right, then there's a report saying there's scientific evidence of health risk from wireless devices and other forms of electromagnetic frequencies. An inventor says Google's causing children to be brain dead. Also, too much internet use can cause damage to teenagers' brains, says a report. Cops say a girl drugged her parents' milkshake to go online. As they passed out, she logged on, and a father orders his son's avatar to be assassinated in a desperate attempt to stop his gaming addiction. Thank you.